Mr. Speaker.
Marama Fox.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's not very often that I find myself standing up and supporting my learned friend and colleague, Mr. Rawiri Seymour. And so today I find myself in quite a well, it is quite unusual for most pieces of legislation. And so here we are with the legislation about the Kermadecs. Now, I completely agree. It is a taonga for not just the people of Aotearoa, but the population of the world, of the ao. And so I think that we're able to gift this taonga to the world is a fantastic thing. It's a place that will be held in a sanctuary for all time. However, and there is a big however, we are unhappy that the rights of the 58 other iwi who have been granted rights for quota during the fishery settlement have been ignored. In fact, I think the Minister has been negligent in actually not consulting with them face to face. I fully recognise that he has been to Mana Whenua, the people who border that area of Ngāti Kuri and Te Aupōuri, and they have been recognised with places on the board. I recognise that my learned colleague and Minister, the very able Minister of Māori Development and not Māori Affairs, will be able to appoint someone to represent the rights of those other 58 iwi. However, the Minister should have had discussions with them. And for the reason that they didn't want to discuss it with anyone or announce it before it was announced to the world, actually just doesn't wash. You have a contractual agreement through a fishery settlement for these 58 other iwi who have interest in this area, and that should, as my learned colleague Mr. Rawiri Seymour has pointed out, be compensated. So let's have a look at that. We think that suitable compromise achieves sustainability, and we need to ensure that iwi are included in that conversation. We have neglected to do that in the 58 other iwi, of which we could go into, but that would take all day. The proposal extinguishes iwi customary and commercial and non-commercial rights, which is contrary to the Crown's duty to actively protect a settlement. Now, this is no small thing. If we think that we can just go back on any settlements that we've had to date, then we're going to see a whole lot of furore in this nation over previous settlements that have been done and declared full and final. And yet the Crown has compromised their duty to protect the settlement as part of its treaty responsibilities in this case. Notwithstanding, we agree that this is a beautiful sanctuary, and all it would have taken, I'm sure, is to have a conversation with the affected iwi that are involved, who have now had those rights extinguished through this bill. The proposal put to Cabinet states that the quota held by Te Ohu Kaimwana on behalf of iwi is an administrative quirk. That's what they've described the settlement of the fishery settlement, which has been in place for quota in this country for some considerable time, as an administrative quirk. Well, I'm surely hopeful when Kahunganuki Wairarapa's settlement comes to this House that it will not in some future date be referred to as an administrative quirk and dismissed as quickly as this has been. As a result of the process, this contradicts the process conducted in early administration to analyse where fish stocks should and were introduced into the quota system in that area. So, as a result of that process, Māori Fisheries Act provides for Te Ohu to hold quota until commercial catches can be assured. Now, I say it again, this was not well done. The Minister should have gone to the people and conducted a full and thorough conversation with them and been adequately compensated because of the extinguishing of those rights. The proposal claims the sanctuary is a sustainability measure needed. Well, in fact, they've barely caught anything in that area for a long, long time, which in itself means it needs to be sustainable, but not for catch numbers, actually for regeneration. Mining is one of the issues. The minerals that are found in that area might be something that everybody wants to grab for, and that we are going to protect it, I think is a fine step. Again, the Māori Party want to assure the country we support the bill, we support the idea of the Kermadecs, but the government have been remiss in consultation with the other iwi, and to describe it as administrative quirk is simply a failure, and it needs to go back and rethink how it does its negotiations and its conversations with our people. The proposal fails to identify the effect on quota rights and the quota management system. It states that the impact on commercial fishing is only small as the current catches. Right? Against MPI advice, it suggests the catch can be caught elsewhere. However, the species currently harvested in that zone will then move out. If fish cannot be caught elsewhere at that time, consistent catch throughout the year is important for the high-value niche markets involved. What it's saying is that not enough consultation was happened against the own advice of MPI. They say that you're going to be able to catch this fish somewhere else, but actually they actually don't know, and MPI have told that themselves. The proposal fails to identify the border impact. The proposal does not reflect the true value of the quota shares. The proposal is likely to contradict international law around no-take zones. Under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, New Zealand must make access available to other nations to fisheries we are not using. The ring of international fishing around the border of the Kermadec EEZ indicates a strong desire of other nations to fish in the zone. You know, whether or not it does, are we going to be met with litigation now, given that the TPP is coming in? Look, it's wonderful to have a taonga, but we should have done our homework. And I think that, Minister, in all fairness, the 58 iwi who talk about their claim have rightly stated their issues, and to be described as an administrative quirk is simply irresponsible, and that there is something to be answered here. If you extinguish their rights, then compensation surely must be a conversation to be had in the future. And I invite the Minister to have those conversations with those ministers. I'm happy today that we are going to support this to first reading, as same as my learned colleague, the lovely Rawiri Seymour. But we would be looking through to the second reading for these things to be fleshed out further. There's the select committee process under which submissions can be made, I fear, will be vigorous. I'm sure that iwi will take up the opportunity to put their case forward. All of that could have been avoided had the conversation been had in the first place. And so, Mr. Speaker, it is with some trepidation that we support this first reading and that we support the bill through to this stage. Happy that we're going to have a taonga for all of Aotearoa to enjoy, but let's just do our homework properly so that there's nothing to come back on in the later years and we find ourselves having to relitigate this entire issue. Nō reira, te mana whakawā, nei te mihi atu ki a koe.